Rekhu, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Rekhu, I national human scientist അയച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്.
Sir, mail ഞാൻ ഇന്നലെ ചെക്ക് ചെയ്തിരുന്നു രാത്രി ഞാൻ കണ്ടില്ല സാറേ. ഇപ്പൊ എന്നാ
അയച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇന്ന് അയച്ചതേ ഉള്ളൂ.
ആ ശരി ശരി. ഞാൻ അപ്പോൾ തന്നെ ചെയ്യാം.
ശരി ശരി.
സാർ ആ വീഡിയോ ഞാൻ എടുക്കാൻ രണ്ടാമത് എപ്പോഴാണ് ഞാൻ വരേണ്ടത്?
നോക്കാം.
ടെലിപ്രോംപ്റ്റർ ഞാൻ അറേഞ്ച് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്.
ഓക്കെ.
സാറ് അതൊന്ന് കാണും. ഇന്നലെ കാണാൻ പറ്റിയോ?
ഇല്ലില്ല, കാണാൻ പറ്റിയില്ല എനിക്ക്.
ഞാൻ അരുണൻ സാറ് കമ്പ്യൂട്ടറിലും EVPയുടെ കമ്പ്യൂട്ടറിലും വെച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്.
ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ. Padmakumar, good morning. I am Pradeep. Padmakumar, KTU നേരത്തെ രജിസ്റ്റർ ആയിട്ടിരുന്നല്ലേ?
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Pradeep.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah.
Good morning.
Are we
good morning.
Start?
Arviji sir etti. Tariga, let us start.
Yes, sir.
Sir, നമുക്ക് തുടങ്ങാലോ?
തുടങ്ങാം.
Good morning to you all. A warm welcome on behalf of Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment. This is the 6th month program that we conduct as part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav initiative of Government of India. The program conducted to commemorate the 75 years of progressive India. The Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, and the state S&T councils have joined hands in organizing the 1 month, 1 theme initiative as Vigyan Utsav. The theme for this month is Science, Communication and Popularization. Let's see a short video about this program. Sunil?
15 अगस्त 2021 को भारत ने अपना 75वां स्वतंत्रता दिवस बड़े धूमधाम से मनाया और साथ में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने लाखों करोड़ों लोगों में नई ऊर्जा और चेतना जगाई। उसी चेतना को बढ़ाने के लिए देश के सभी विभाग विशेष कार्यक्रम का आयोजन कर रहे हैं। समाज के लिए विज्ञान और प्रौद्योगिकी विभाग द्वारा नावीन्य कार्यक्रम का आयोजन किया गया है, जिसका नाम है विज्ञान उत्सव। विज्ञान उत्सव कार्यक्रम सितंबर 2021 से अगस्त 2022 तक चलेगा, जिसे डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया तथा स्टेट साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी प्रोग्राम के तहत मनाया जाएगा। विज्ञान उत्सव कार्यक्रम में STI के लगते विषयों आधारित राज्य स्तर पर विभिन्न प्रकार की प्रवृत्तियां होंगी, जिसमें राज्य स्तर पर STI संस्थान, मानव क्षमता विकास, R&D इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, स्वदेशी प्रौद्योगिकी, नवाचार और स्टार्टअप, विज्ञान संचार और लोकप्रियता, महिला वैज्ञानिक, विज्ञान और समाज, फ्यूचर टेक्नोलॉजी, आत्मनिर्भरता के लिए बुनियादी विज्ञान, आत्मनिर्भरता और उद्योग और बौद्धिक संपदा अधिकार जैसे विषयों को शामिल किया गया है। विज्ञान उत्सव कार्यक्रम हमें आत्मनिर्भर भारत की ओर ले जाएगा। विज्ञान उत्सव में भारत के अलग अलग राज्य के S&T काउंसिल्स भागीदार होंगे, जो अपने राज्य की विज्ञान प्रवृत्तियां और नवाचार के विभिन्न पहलू की झांकियों का प्रदर्शन करेंगे। इसी के साथ हम सब अपने आत्मविश्वास को आत्मनिर्भर भारत के लिए बुलंद करेंगे। इसे आप YouTube चैनल और SSTP के वेब पोर्टल पर देख सकते हैं। आइए आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव हम सब मिलकर विज्ञान उत्सव के साथ मनाएं। विज्ञान उत्सव हम सबका अपना उत्सव।
Moving on to the program, may I invite Dr. S. Pradeep Kumar, the Member Secretary of Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment, to welcome the distinguished guests and participants.
Thank you, Sharika. Professor K.P. Sudhir, Executive Vice President, Kerala State Council for Science, Technology, Environment, and Ex Officio Principal Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Government of Kerala. Dr. A.P. Jayaraman, Chairman, National Center for Science Communication. Professor R.V.G. Menon, former Principal, College of Engineering, Trivandrum. Professor S. Shivadas, Dr. G.P. Padmakumar, Director, Science and Technology Museum. Dr. Nagendra Prabhu, SD College, Alapura. Dr. A.V. Rekhu from Kerala Forest Research Institute, Thrissur. Dr. M. Nawaz from Jawaharlal Nehru Tropical Botanical Garden. Dr. Sri Kumar from National Green Corps, Alapura. Directors of different R&D organizations. Officials from different state councils. Dr. E.S. Anil, Dr. Binuja, Dr. Sharika, my dear friends and colleagues. A very good morning to one and all. Welcome back to the next session of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, celebration of the 75th anniversary of Indian independence. As you are aware, to commemorate this monumental occasion, we, the science and technology people, set our celebrations with the STI ecosystem with 1 month, 1 team initiative for a resurgent Atmanirbhar Bharat. Today, we will be discussing on different dimensions of science popularization and communication. We have with us the very apt persons with the vast experience to share their experience and to discuss on. As we all know, science popularization implies to bring science to the general public, to disseminate scientific knowledge, and to foster scientific way of thinking among people. In particular, science popularization refers to public understanding of science and public communication of research projects. We, the Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment, has exclusive programs for effective disseminations of science advancements. Our programs, namely support for seminar, symposium, workshop, science media support, science education center, research methodology workshops, National Children Science Congress, Rural Innovators Meet, Tech First, and we are in the forefront of the state for the same. The largest gathering of the science fraternity of the state every year, the Kerala Science Congress, is one of the unique programs which is being organized for the past 34 years continuously. Let me come back to my responsibility of welcoming the gathering. Professor K.P. Sudhir is the part and parcel of the Kerala State Council and leading the council at various levels. I welcome you, sir, to this program. Dr. A.P. Jayaraman, Chairman, National Center for Science Communication, is the keynote speaker today. He has readily accepted our invitation and agreed to deliver a lecture. I cordially welcome you, sir, to this function. Professor R.V.G. sir needs no introduction. As an engineer, as a professor, as a scientist, and an activist, he had contributed at various levels for the science popularization. I welcome you, sir, to this function. Professor S. Shivadas, former professor of CMS College, Kottayam, a science writer, has agreed to share his vast experience in the science of science communication. I welcome you, sir, to this function. Dr. G.P. Padmakumar, Director, Science and Technology Museum, will be discussing various roles of Science and Technology Museum in science popularization. I welcome you, sir, to this function. Dr. Nagendra Prabhu, Professor at SD College, Alapura, is working on capacity building and science popularization with the tools and techniques he developed for product making. I welcome you, Dr. Prabhu, to this function for sharing your experience. I welcome our own colleagues from R&D centers, Dr. A.V. Rekhu from Kerala Forest Research Institute, Dr. M. Nawaz from Jawaharlal Nehru Tropical Botanical Garden, and Dr. Sri Kumar, our coordinator, National Green Corps, Alapura, for sharing their experience with regard to the science popularization activities. I sincerely welcome you all to this function. I sincerely welcome Dr. Debapriya Datta, Dr. Reshmi Sharma, and Ravikant Prajapati of DST, Government of India, to this function. I welcome our dearest Dattan sir to this function. Dr. E.S. Anil Kumar and his team coordinated this Kerala episode of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. I congratulate them for their efforts and welcome to this function. I sincerely welcome all the participants who showed real interest in this program. I welcome and congratulate Dr. Sharika, Sri Sunil Kumar, Sri Jayakrishnan for their efforts for the successful conduct of this program. Last but not least, I welcome all my friends and colleagues, all those who had gathered here to witness this function. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Professor K.P. Sudhir is the ex-officio Principal Secretary to Department of Science and Technology, Government of Kerala, and the Executive Vice President, Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment. I now invite Professor Sudhir for the presidential address.
Thank you, Sharika. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. J. Rahman, President of STEAM Academy and Chairperson of National Center for Science Communications. Professor S. Shivadas, former professor at CMS College, Kottayam. Professor R.V.G. Menon, former Principal, College of Engineering, Kannur, and also the former Director of UNERT. Dr. G.P. Padmakumar, Director, Kerala State Science Technology Museum. Other colleagues, Dr. G. Nagendra Prabhu, Dr. M. Nawaz, Dr. H. Srikumar, Dr. Rakhu, Dr. Binuja Thomas, Dr. Pradeep, and other dignitaries who have assembled here, and my colleagues and friends. It's indeed again a pleasure to preside over the 7th month of celebrations of the 75th year of independence and Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, planned and implemented by the Government of India. As Dr. Pradeep mentioned, this program is envisaged as a 12 months program with one theme in every month being done across India by different state S&T councils. And every month there is a day dedicated to each of the state council, and we are now in this Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment's day today. The theme for this month, in the month of February, is Science, Communication and Popularization. All of us know that Kerala State has been doing a lot of activities towards promoting the science among the children and in the public. We have a lot of program at the council to disseminate the science, the importance of science to different levels of community, starting from the school children till the PhD scholars, postdoctoral scholars, and also the general public. And part of that, I think there is a presentation by Dr. E.S. Anil Kumar about the details of the program being implemented by the Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment. When we talk about science popularization and science communication, I don't think it needs any kind of emphasis on the importance of it. But at the same time, I also wanted to mention a point that with the advent of social media and a lot of media for communication these days, the science is getting popularized in a misguided way, and we have to be careful about it. And we need to take effective measures so that only the appropriate part of the science is getting communicated and popularized in the media. Well, these days anybody can come up with an argument and say that it's made in public, and several people get misguided by that, and then there are several incidences which was reported to us as well. We have to be a little careful about what we are doing, apart from what we officially are doing. This has been emphasized at different levels of the government, at the center as well as the state, that erroneous communications to the public in terms of scientific discoveries and other things make a lot of confusion in the community, which cater to confusions and effective management becomes very difficult. So I don't want to emphasize much on this, and I guess all the people who have assembled here are aware of these kind of things, and then let us take a note of it and then try to make sure that the publicity we give are effective and indulged. Some of the issues, or some of the activities at the council, what we do for effective scientific communication. One of the activity which is mentioned by Dr. Pradeep is the Kerala Science Congress, where we give a platform for the researchers, young researchers and the established researchers to network and disseminate their research output in a public forum, where they come across peers, get suggestions for improvement of research, and they do conduct a network of activities which cater to or help them in developing their research activities in a much better way. When we look at the school children, we have a lot of program for information about disseminating scientific aptitude or inculcating scientific aptitude among the children. There are a lot of activities towards that. And Government of Kerala spends a lot of money for scientific communication as well as popularization of science among the public as well as the students. I don't want to extend anything. The details will be delivered or presented by Dr. E.S. Anilkumar. At this point of time, I would like to appreciate the efforts put in by my colleagues for the last 7 months, and we have already planned it for the next 5 months as well, for actively doing this Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav in a day. In fact, the month of March is completely being organized by Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment, which is emphasized on the women in science. And I think we will be organizing it for the entire month with the control from the Trivandrum by coordinating with different state councils of the country. And I thank the organizers for actually identifying eminent personalities to talk about science communication and popularization today. And Pradeep has already introduced all of them to you. And all of them doesn't require, I'm sure that they don't require an introduction as such. They are very popular in their capacity for popularizing the science. So I wish to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present the function, and I wish the function a very success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. To provide an overview on Kerala's science communication and popularization programs and the initiatives of KCST, I invite Dr. E.S. Anilkumar, the scientist of KCST.
Good evening to all respected dignitaries, dear colleagues and friends. The topic of today's presentation is Science Communication and Popularization in Kerala and KSCSTE initiatives. Kerala plays an inevitable role in capacity building through the following platforms for the science communication and popularization. research and educational institutions of Kerala, NGOs, print and electronic media, science museums, science parks, etc., bringing science into the general public and developing a science way of thinking among people. Next slide. The major universities in Kerala involved in promoting science and communication and popularization. University of Kerala, APJ Abdul Kalam Technological University, Kerala University of Digital Sciences, MG University, NGOs in Integrated Rural Technology Center, Palakkad, MSSR of Community Agrobiodiversity Center, Wayanad, Pyramid Development Society, Idiki, Kerala, Shastra Sahitya Vishad, Kannur. R&D institutions under KSCSTE promoting scientific communication and popularization, CWRDM, Kerala School of Mathematics, JNT BGRI, MBG IPS, Srinivasa Ramayanam Institute of Basic Sciences, NADPAC, KFRI. Programs of KSCSTE R&D institutes for promoting science communication. Jawaharlal Nehru Tropical Botanic Garden and Research Institute, they are organizing many programs in this way. They have already organized Children's Science Day celebrations during 2018. Nearly about 100 primary school students were participated from the nearby schools of JNT BGRI. They have also conducted various training and awareness programs. Jyotis, a contact and awareness programs to equip and empower higher secondary science students towards research aptitude and development, then value addition training program on medicinal plants in 5 Gram Panchayats of Wayanad. They are also publishing a journal and also conducting media and television interviews on various topics of scientific importance. Center for Water Resources and Development and Management, they are also conducting training and awareness programs such as Green Skill Development Program on pollution monitoring, air and water. A total of 25 students were participated. They are also conducting regional seminar come exhibition on drought management. Jeeva Jalam, another important program. It is an awareness program on conservation and effective utilization of water resources. They are also actively participated in the Swachh Nirmal Abhiyan, the bleach cleaning program with the participants of residential associations around Kozhikode and student communities. Malabar Botanical Garden and Research Institute for Plant Sciences. They are conducting an important program called Shastra Samiksha, a 4-day science orientation program for high school students. A total of 500 students have participated. They are also conducted a program called Bionidhi, 1-day garden attachment program for the selected high school students of entire Kozhikode district. They have published a book, a popular book titled Waste Management, and also produced a short film titled Nale. They are also performing workshops and awareness programs every year. Kerala School of Mathematics is also conducting refresher courses and awareness courses for high school teachers, primary school teachers. Outreach program conducted at Kasaragod, Thrissur and Idiki district. They are also conducted summer and winter workshop. Also conducted talent nurture program. Kerala Forest Research Institute also actively engaging extension activities and popularization activities such as Bala Silpasara they have organized during 2019 and awareness programs on various aspects of bamboo cultivation and preparation of value-added products. They have already published many popular science books and video programs. National Transportation Planning and Research Center conducting training and workshops regarding the safe transportation of hazardous goods to drivers. A total of 84 programs they were conducted during the last 5 years. We also conduct road safety youth leadership programs. Then the programs of KSCSTE for promoting science, communication, and popularization. One of the major objectives of KSCSTE is the popularization of science and technological activities of the state of Kerala. In this context, KSCSTE is given high thrust for science, communication, and popularization and has designed many programs. Kerala Science Congress is one of the major annual event conducted by KSCSTE every year during the last week of January. It provides a platform for young researchers, academicians, technologists, etc. to share their views, their research findings, etc. relevant to the state of Kerala. The important sessions of Science Congress, memorial lectures, focal theme session, technical paper presentation, Children's Science Congress, postgraduate students interactive session. During the last 5 years, about 9,785 participants were participated in various categories. National Children's Science Congress is also an important mega event of KSCSTE. KSCSTE is the nodal agency to organize the Children's Science Congress during the last 5 years from 2017 to 21. 450 student level projects were presented in state level competitions. The observations of scientific days is also very important. National Science Day, Wetland Day, National Technology Day, etc. We are celebrating and we are funding financial support to many organizations of different categories. Then popularization of IPR in the state of Kerala, popularizing IPR through massive sensitization program to create awareness and knowledge on the technical subject among the people in all cross-section of Kerala. More than 15,200 students were and researchers were sensitized during this program. IPR awareness, 157 IPR awareness programs were organized by KSCSTE IPR cell. Then patent leads received and processed 425, number of world IP days organized 5. And we have already filed 32 patent applications and 13 patents were granted. The national webinar series are also conducted during the last year regarding the IPR awareness program as a part of IPR awareness program. Then biotechnology innovation for rural development is also an important scheme of KSCSTE. They are giving training and entrepreneurship practices to rural groups through training and capacity building in vermicomposting, mushroom cultivation, etc. And the Biotechnology Commission of KSCSTE has organized webinar series on various aspects of COVID-19 pandemic last year. We are also established science writing, science communication, science journalist fellowships, T. Bhaskara Science Writing Fellowships for Science Communication. 6 popular science books were published as a part of the fellowship program. Then National Green Crops, KSCSTE is the nodal agency of NGC. We have established more than 5,000 NGCs in 5,000 schools of Kerala state. Every year, NGC is organizing more than 100 training programs, awareness programs among teachers and students, then 45 nature camps, and 500 webinar or seminar series. Shastra Bodhini is also another scheme, an external funded program supported by Scheduled Tribe Development Department, Government of Kerala, for promoting young talents in science and technology in the model residential school under the ST Development Department of the state. 18 model residential schools where students of 18 model residential schools were participated. As a part of this, a Shastra Bodhini MRS were conducted during 2019. It is a 3-day program, and 300 students from 18 model residential schools were participated, and 58 school level projects were presented. We are also organizing, every year we are organizing Rural Innovators Meet for RIM, for encouraging and promoting the unorganized rural and grassroots innovators. Then Tech Fest is also, we are organizing every year. Programs of NGS promoting science communication and popularization. The Period Development Society are conducting various training and awareness programs for the empowerment of rural and tribal communities. The IRTC is also organizing some school level programs. Luca Quiz for the secondary school students. They have organized a total of more than 17,000 students who have participated. Padanodayam is also another program organized by IRTC. MS Swaminathan Research Foundation organizing biodiversity training programs on biodiversity conservation for the farmers, tribal community students. They have also organized 3 community seed festivals for the popularization of indigenous seeds of Kerala. They have also published several books, handbooks for students and general public. The Mitra Nivedan is also conducting awareness creation among general public regarding the renewable energy sources. Recently, they have developed a low-cost solar dryer for drying fruits and vegetables to reduce the drying cost and keeping better quality of the product. Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad, an important NGO for the communication and popularization of scientific activities of our state. They have organized the Balavedi. It is an children's organization. It is an unofficial gathering of children where they play, sing, conduct experiments, observe things, and come across the methodology of science. LUCA is also an important science portal of KSSP. More than 3,500 popular science articles by authentic authors are available there, and their readership has now reached 1.5 lakhs. They are also publishing many magazines like Shastra Gadi, Eureka, Shastra Keralam, etc. From programs of government institutions promoting science, communication, and popularization. Center for Science in Society of KISAT, they are conducting many programs for school children, teachers, general public, etc. Shastra Samisha is a science orientation program for high school students. They are also celebrating National Science Day. Then Rajiv Gandhi Center of Bio, the aspirational district of Wayanad, they have conducted Indian International Science Festival. More than 2,020 students from schools and colleges of Trivandrum visited. They have published 18 scientific stories based on the research achievements of DBT RGCB in the online portal of DST Vigyan Prasad. Kerala Veterinary and Animal Sciences University also conducting various training and awareness programs for livestock farmers. They are also publishing popular handbooks for various aspects of livestock farming. MG University also organizing open day workshop for school students, Timo Expo exhibition. A total of 500 students have participated. During the last 5 years, they have published 48 popular science books. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for detailing the science popularization programs of Kerala and KCST. Dr. A.P. Rahman is the chairman of National Center for Science Communicators, is the president of Academy of STEAM, and the former nuclear scientist at Baba Atomic Research Center. He had a distinguished, diverse career in several disciplines and divisions of Department of Atomic Energy for 40 years. He has won the International Copernicus Award for Science Popularization and numerous national and state awards in science communication. He has authored about 20 science books and over 3,000 science articles. It's my pleasure to invite Dr. A.P. Rahman for the keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. President, Professor K.P. Sudhir, Principal Secretary to Government of Kerala, Dr. Pradeep Kumar, Professor Shivadas, Professor R.V.J. Menon, Dr. Patna Kumar, Dr. Anil Kumar, and distinguished working scientists of Kerala Society of Science, Technology, and Environment. To me, a small atom in the large molecular architecture of science communication. It's a very privileged day today to participate in this great meeting of the minds. I particularly appreciate this because for the last 55 years, I have been hobnobbing with the science communication since 1967 with Dr. M.P. Parameswaran at the Cyrus nuclear reactor. That's where we started our journey. And the emotions recollected and tranquility take me to those good old days. Today, when we are working at the regional, national, and international level on science communication, I find it a privilege to have abstract ideas and concrete actions blended together quite invisibly. So we have the standard textbook model, the standard model of science communication, which is now most valid, is being validified, is being falsified in this very, very intense COVID-19 times. Usually we treat it as a physics problem, a three-body collision problem. We have the matrix of society, in which we have the scientists, we have the science communicators or science journalists or the media persons, and in between there is the public relations professionals. Now, we should view it from the point of view of a knowledge economy. When we speak about a knowledge economy, what we find most is the principal stuff is knowledge. Production of knowledge, distribution of knowledge, exchange of knowledge, and consumption of knowledge. These are the four economic pillars of a knowledge economy. But the problem comes in the production of knowledge at the very front end of the supply chain. Knowledge, let's start with Bertrand Russell's classic definition. Knowledge begins with doubt. And all scientists are doubting Thomases, or skeptical scientists as we call. And today in COVID times, you find it all the more important. Because when they produce information, and information you can define as negative entropy, entropy being a measure of the disorder of a system. So when they produce information, automatically, and by a curious twist of accidents, it gets into disinformation, malinformation, and misinformation. One case study I want to bring in here is the recent application of to wear a mask or not to wear a mask. When the World Health Organization decided that pathogens are absolutely and totally and completely airborne, that decision by them didn't come by itself. They were reluctant to concede to that fact. That is because scientists work in silos. Not only are they not interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary, when they need to be transdisciplinary, what we find them to be with a deep and narrow knowledge in their domains. We have aerosol scientists working on the deep layers of aerosol particles, and we have biomedical scientists working on pathogens, but they never speak to each other. They never communicate to each other. In fact, they make faces at each other. That is why we were told that scientists among themselves are out of job. In this case, it was a female scientist from Georgia Institute of Technology, Dr. Lindsay Mer, who said that pathogens are airborne and the 5-micron boundary line, the watershed we have created, is not a sacrosanct situation. And she experimentally demonstrated that particles can be airborne, and reluctantly WHO changed its perception. So scientific facts on one side, accumulated scientific facts on one side, converging decisions on one side, then we find reluctance or acceptance by the body of scientific authorities. That is one aspect within the science community itself. Then the scientists who want to communicate, they do communicate directly with the media people, and we get the noise levels, the noise of misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation. There is another additional media, that is a press relations agency, but in the hierarchy of society, in the hierarchy of scientific society, many scientists are in the public sector, and particularly in the governmental sector. They're not allowed to interact with the public directly. You need a mediated intervention. And then we have the press officers interacting with the media. So this three-body collision is the physiology and anatomy of which we have to understand so correctly to assess the current status of science communication. Coming specifically to COVID-19 times, where we had the large information explosion, if you look at the information explosion on this side, if you go to the reference sites, say for example, Nature, to quote Nature, we had about 100,000 articles published. And there are estimates and guesstimates ranging up to 200,000 articles, all in 1 year. That was the rate of production. And there is a new system of publication, bypassing the peer review, the peerless papers appearing and going to the media directly. In addition to that, people like us, science communicators, who do not only written communication, but also oral communication. We have been speaking on science and COVID science, on epidemiology, virology, and vaccinology. So the total number of words created by the science communicators during the COVID times would run to a few billions. So that is the plethora of we could almost call it an oral diarrhea with respect to the production of communication words, spoken words. Now, this is a situation which has never happened in the recorded history of, in the human recorded history, let alone in the history of communication, let alone in the history of science of technology communication. So that is the situation. This is an unusual situation where we are presently now. So this is Lindsay Mary, I mentioned a short while ago, the person who brought to public attention the dichotomy between the different silos and was able to converge to the acceptance of airborne nature of particles. Now, what is actually also important here is we need to understand that the scientific community themselves is not a congruent or a coherent voice. They have their own disputes, and then we get the convergent views. But the convergent views of one section of scientists may not agree with another view. So that is a clash of interests. And to get to the truth, it takes time. Therefore, the research, the culture of science communicators need to change, and the need and value and the need for that was brought out in very sharp and vibrant terms during the COVID times. In science, we are driven by the primary, our prime mover, publish or perish. So to remain where we have to run faster than yesterday, obeying the red cubes effect. So as our publication increases its critical size, then we need to be a little reticent. That reticence was totally dismissed, was banished with bell, book, and candle during the COVID times. First to the press, trust to that. If you cannot go to the print media and go to the peerless non-review net connections, or you go to the media and directly clear to that. So this was the methodology which led to a large section of misinformation. Now, beyond reticence, we also need an intensity of experience with information. Information has to be digested, and it has to, before its communication, it has to be properly evaluated, that has to be disseminated. So that control, that self-control has been lost. Second one. So the intimacy factor, and then again the innocence factor from the scientist side. All over, it was some of the basic guidelines of the scientific method were thrown to the winds, because all in the name of going to the press, to the people first, no matter whether the information we have is the right one or it needs to be validated further. Or so in such a situation, what we find is people started weighing science in grudging scales of fidelity. Science is evaluated, scientists are evaluated, media are being evaluated, and medical doctors were also evaluated. Despite all this cacophony, we can find there is a generalized trend, an increase in the acceptability of science. This is a one-year data which has been published by Nature. You find from 32 in science, it has gone to 41%, a significant parameter. And in scientists, from 34 to 43. Because belief in science, trust in science, and trust in scientists are to be slightly differentiated, because scientists have often, particularly in the pharma sector, are linked to certain corporate sectors and they have their own interests to be served. In the case of media has been remarkably successful in keeping its confidence level from 18, and there is a slightly upward trend. In the case of the medical profession, we find a very distinct increase in the confidence level reposed by the community. So that's the general trend about it. And most of them have been published, brought into the public domain by the Wellcome Trust in their recent report of 2020. And they have made extensive sociological studies about the trust in science, trust in scientists. And so we at the National Center for Science Communicators, Mumbai, we have been doing with college students the trust and trust factors in science and scientists. Surveys were being conducted. But I want to bring into your attention two factors which we could do remarkably well during the COVID times. That is, we conducted a full-blown science communication course for a university. And we had the world-class faculty because travel is not involved. So thanks to the virtual reality which we could establish, it was possible for us to have the finest of faculty. Those trained on the sensitive elevations could be brought in, and a high density, high quality program could be delivered at the university level in HSNC University in Mumbai. I would call this as a remarkable professional accomplishment. Also, we could run a UGC approved course on science communication during the same time, again by using faculty of a very high order, particularly a world-class faculty. So these are the two very major courses which we have started at the national level. And apart from that, there was learning thyself. That is, we ask the science communicators, before you communicate, before you teach, you will learn. So we made very short condensed courses on virology, vaccinology, and epidemiology, because these were the three factors, and a general introduction to biology, that most of the physical scientists who are communicators, who are communicating on space science or atomic energy, were now tuned to the higher frequency of dealing with these aspects. So training and retraining the science communicators in dealing with the contemporary subjects was one of the modules which we have very successfully implemented at the National Center for Science Communicators. At the international level, the Public Understanding of Science and Technology, PCST, we organized two seminars specifically devoted to the concept of trust in science and trust in scientists. And that was very well received by the university professors. And particularly, we have now written chapters on those subjects going into study module. The science communicators were also at a stage because they wanted to find out who are the role models they can follow. Of course, we have the classical picture of Anthony Fauci. But if you look at the scientific communication career of Anthony Fauci, you will find the dynamic nature of stewardship and leadership. Initially, in the beginning, in the first phase, we find him as a pioneer. Path-breaking work, pace-setting work. That's what he did. Then from pioneering one, within about 6 months' time, you find the pioneering leader in Fauci has transformed himself or transmuted himself into an integrator, because there were several centers of production of knowledge. And when those several centers of knowledge were producing simultaneously, what was required was the role of an integrator, and he did that remarkably well. Now, having done that, he could easily identify the silences in sciences, where there are certain areas which are orphan areas. And without dealing with that, it will not be possible to supply an effective medium for the management and the policy deciders. He went into a different phase of managerial connotation, which we call the driver's phase. You have to drive. You have to give energy and momentum so that the research R&D community moves on. So you find the same communicator in a pioneering mode, an integrator mode, and again in a driver mode. All that comes, you will find a number of disparate tendencies coming in between, and you need to be the guardian angel. So these are the 4 dynamic models which have to be in equilibrium at several times depending upon a situational leadership. And we find a classical example in the case of Anthony Fauci. I just want to make one mention that when we are speaking about science communication, we need to understand in abstract terms the containment models produced. Probably one of the most classical containment models we can think of is the Chinese model of containment. And most of them is available in literature. But I would advise that it is necessary for us to compare both the Chinese containment model and the Kerala containment model. They have similarities as well as differences. Now, if you see the value portion, the value component of the Chinese model, you will find the absolute value for life as value 1 and solidarity. Now, solidarity has normally not been built into many of the US concerns. They're more on the value of private life. Now, again, on the 2 goals which they have set for themselves, you have health and public health. Personal health at one side and public health. So that equilibrium has been maintained in the overall situation. Then the 5 mechanisms they have brought in. Each one, because there is, it will not be possible for me to go into details of it, which is more on my teaching mode. So currently we have abstracted models available. And recently in the European Science Festival, I had an occasion to discuss this along with the Kerala model. But to speak about Kerala model to this distinguished audience, it will be like taking coal to Newcastle. So I shall desist myself from that temptation, though irresistible it is. But the point is, I just want to remember in the 1960s when we started the science popularization movement in the Baba Atomic Research Center, when Dr. M.B. Parameswaran was with us, we were doing systems thinking. And today the Kerala model is described in literature as science storytelling systems thinking. When the limits to growth concept, the club of Rome situation arose, and when Forrester's work at MIT on system dynamics started, the first article for Vijnana Kairali on limits to growth, that is Vikasathinte Parimidhi, was written in 1968 from the Baba Atomic Research Center. So the systems thinking as part of science communication was built into our genome, right? And the scientific communication genome. So that is one aspect which I am tempted to remember as part of personal recollections. So going through the current phase of science communication, it needed reticence, it needed deep intensity with facts, an ability to distinguish facts from opinion, and weighing in very grudging scales the merits and demerits of scientific arguments. So that was a value which we had to acquire in the COVID times. So all in all, if I want to sum up the comment of the science communication commentary in one word, science communicators learn thoroughly before you start communicating. And reticence is a virtue which we need most because the information explosion is so fast and you need to differentiate between the quality of information. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share some of my disturbing thoughts with my distinguished colleagues over here.
Thank you so much, sir, for that enlightening address, for stressing the need for intercommunication among the scientists and for explaining the role of science communication in terms of the COVID scenario. Thank you so much, sir. Now we have Professor S. Shivdas, the former professor at CMS College, Kottayam, is with us for the talk. He has published about more than 100 books, which include stories, dramas, novels, and science articles. He obtained numerous prestigious awards, including the Kerala Sahitya Academy Award, National Award of National Council of Science, Technology and Communication for the best effort in science popularization among children. Professor Shivadas received the Big Little Book Award presented by Tata Trust Parag Initiative for his significant contribution to children's literature in Indian language. It's my pleasure to invite Professor Shivadas for the invited talk. Sir, please.
കേൾക്കാവോ
കേൾക്കാം സാർ കേൾക്കാം
കേൾക്കാവോ
കേൾക്കാം
Yes.
നെറ്റ് വളരെ വീക്ക് അതാ ഞാൻ ചോദിച്ചത്
കേൾക്കാം സാർ
സുഹൃത്തുക്കളെ, ഡോക്ടർ ജയരാമൻ സയൻസ് കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷൻ്റെ ഗ്ലോബൽ തലവും നാഷണൽ തലവും സ്പർശിച്ച് വളരെ ഗഹനമായൊരു പ്രബന്ധമാണ് അവതരിപ്പിച്ചത്. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും അത് ശാസ്ത്ര സാങ്കേതിക പരിസ്ഥിതി കൗൺസിൽ തന്നെ ഉടൻ പബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്യും എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ പ്രത്യാശിക്കുന്നത്. കാരണം അതൊരു നല്ല റെഫറൻസ് മെറ്റീരിയലായി മാറും. ഞാൻ വ്യക്തിപരമായ ചില അനുഭവങ്ങളാണ് നിങ്ങളുമായി ഈ ചുരുങ്ങിയ സമയം, കാരണം ജയരാമൻ സൂചിപ്പിച്ചതുപോലെ 50-55 വർഷത്തെ ഈ ശാസ്ത്ര പ്രചരണ പ്രവർത്തനം 10 മിനിറ്റ് കൊണ്ട് ചുരുക്കി ചില അനുഭവങ്ങൾ നിങ്ങളുമായി പങ്കുവയ്ക്കാനാണ് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. ഒന്നാമതായി എനിക്ക് പറയാനുള്ളത്, ഈ മലയാള ഭാഷയിൽ ലോകത്തെ ഏത് സയൻസ് വിഷയവും വളരെ ഭംഗിയായി, മനോഹരമായി, അനായാസമായി അവതരിപ്പിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കും എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. അങ്ങനെ സാധിക്കുകയില്ല, മലയാളത്തിൽ വേണ്ടത്ര പദങ്ങളില്ല, മലയാളം അതിന് ഇനിയും വളരണം എന്നൊക്കെയുള്ളത് തെറ്റായ ധാരണകളാണ്. കഴിഞ്ഞ ഈ 50-55 വർഷത്തെ അനുഭവം, 200-ലേറെ പുസ്തകങ്ങൾ എഴുതിയ അനുഭവം വെച്ചുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഞാനിത് പറയുന്നത്. നമ്മൾ ഒരുപക്ഷെ സാങ്കേതിക പദങ്ങൾ മലയാളത്തിലോട്ട് മാറ്റാനുള്ള ശ്രമം നടന്നു, നല്ല കാര്യമാണ്. പക്ഷേ അതെല്ലാം നടത്തിയതിന് ശേഷം സയൻസ് കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷൻ നടത്തുക എന്നുള്ളത് അർത്ഥശൂന്യമാണ്. സയൻസ് കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷൻ നിരന്തരം നടത്തണം. സയൻസ് നമ്മൾ നന്നായിട്ട് എഴുതണം, അത് ജനങ്ങളിലേക്ക് പ്രചരിപ്പിക്കണം, ജനങ്ങളുമായിട്ട് നിരന്തരമായ ഇടപെടൽ നടത്തണം. അങ്ങനെ വിവിധ തരങ്ങളിലുള്ള ഈ കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷൻ പ്രവർത്തനം, സയൻസ് പോപ്പുലറൈസേഷൻ പ്രവർത്തനം ഒരുപക്ഷെ നടക്കുമ്പോൾ ഈ ഭാഷയിൽ ആവശ്യമുള്ള വാക്കുകൾ തനിയെ വരും. അത് നിങ്ങളിപ്പോൾ സമൂഹത്തിൽ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചാൽ മനസ്സിലാകും. നമ്മൾ പണ്ട് കേട്ടിട്ട് പോലില്ലാത്ത വാക്കുകൾ, നെറ്റ്വർക്കിങ്, അതെ എൻ്റെ അവിടെ നെറ്റ് കിട്ടുന്നില്ല എന്നൊക്കെ സാധാരണ തൊഴിലാളികൾ സംസാരിക്കുന്നത് കേൾക്കുമ്പോൾ, വളരെ പരിമിതമായ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസം ഉള്ള, ഇപ്പം എൻ്റെ വീട് മെയിൻ്റനൻസ് നടക്കുകയാണ്, അപ്പോൾ അവിടെ വൈറ്റ് വാഷൊക്കെ ചെയ്യാൻ വരുന്നവരാണ് പറയുന്നത്, സാറേ ഇവിടെ നെറ്റ് നന്നായിട്ട് കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ട്, എനിക്ക് നെറ്റ് ശരി കിട്ടുന്നില്ല അവിടെ, എൻ്റെ മൊബൈൽ ഇന്നതാണ്, സാറിൻ്റെ മൊബൈൽ ഏതാണ്. ഈ കഴിഞ്ഞ ദിവസം ഒരു പയ്യൻ കൊണ്ടുവന്ന് ഒരു പവർ പാക്ക് എൻ്റെ തന്നു, പറഞ്ഞു. ഒരു സാധാരണ തൊഴിലാളി ഒരു പവർ പാക്ക് എന്താണെന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കുകയും അത് ഉപയോഗിക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നു എന്ന് പറയുന്നിടത്ത് എത്ര വലിയ അളവിൽ സയൻസ് അവൻ്റെ നിത്യജീവിതത്തിൽ എത്തിയിരിക്കുന്നു എന്ന് നമ്മൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കണം. അപ്പം ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു സമൂഹത്തിൽ ഏത് വിഷയവും കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ, എഴുതുമ്പോൾ, പ്രചരിപ്പിക്കുമ്പോൾ വാക്കുകൾ തന്നെ ഉണ്ടായിക്കോളൂ. ഇപ്പം നെറ്റ്വർക്കിംഗ് എന്നുള്ള വാക്കിനൊന്നും പുതിയ വാക്കുകൾ വേറെ കണ്ടുപിടിക്കേണ്ട ആവശ്യമൊന്നുമില്ല. ഞാൻ ഓർത്തു പോകുന്നത് 60കളിൽ 65-ലോ 66 വരെ ആണെന്ന് എൻ്റെ ഓർമ്മ. KPS മേനൻ കോട്ടയത്ത് വന്ന് ഈ ശാസ്ത്ര സാഹിത്യ പരിഷത്തിൽ വേണ്ടി ഒരു പ്രസംഗം നടത്തുകയുണ്ടായി. അദ്ദേഹം ബാലഭവനിൽ വെച്ചാണ് നടന്നത്. കാരണം അന്ന് ബാലഭവനും പരിഷത്തുമായിട്ട് സഹകരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു കാലമായിരുന്നു. മാത്രമല്ല ബാലഭവൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ആ കെട്ടിടം അത് KPS മേനൻ്റെ കോട്ടയത്തെ വീടാണ്. അദ്ദേഹം സൗജന്യമായി ബാലഭവന് കൊടുത്തതാണ്, പബ്ലിക് ലൈബ്രറിക്ക് കൊടുത്തതാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അവിടെ വെച്ച് അദ്ദേഹം പറയുകയുണ്ടായി, ഈ റഷ്യൻ ഭാഷയിൽ ഹെയർ കട്ടിങ് സലൂൺ എന്നുള്ള ആ വാക്ക് റഷ്യയിൽ 3 ഭാഷകളിൽ നിന്നാണ് ഈ വാക്ക് കടമെടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. ആ ഹെയറും കട്ടിങ്ങും സലൂണും 3 ഭാഷയിൽ നിന്ന് കിട്ടി. അങ്ങനെയാണ് ഈ റഷ്യയിൽ ഇത് ഹെയർ കട്ടിങ് സലൂണിനെ വിളിക്കുന്നത്. ആ പേര് ഞാൻ മറന്നുപോയി. അപ്പം ഇത് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് അദ്ദേഹം പറയുമായിരുന്നു, അതായത് എനിക്ക് ഈ അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞ ലാംഗ്വേജ് ഷുഡ് ബി ലൈക്ക് എ പ്രോസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് റെഡി ടു റിസീവ് ഫ്രം എനിബഡി. ഇതാണ് അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞ വാചകം. അതിൻ്റെ അർത്ഥം വളരെ വ്യക്തമാണല്ലോ. അതായത് എല്ലായിടത്തു നിന്നും സ്വീകരിക്കാൻ ഭാഷ തയ്യാറാകണം. അത് ഏത് ഭാഷ തയ്യാറാകുന്നോ ആ ഭാഷ വളരും. ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് അതിനകത്ത് ഒരിക്കൽ തയ്യാറായി, അതുകൊണ്ട് ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ഇപ്പോഴും വളർന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നു, അതിൽ പുതിയ പുതിയ വാക്കുകൾ ഉണ്ടാകുന്നു. അപ്പം ഇതിൻ്റെ അർത്ഥം മലയാളത്തിന് ഇങ്ങനെ വിവിധ രംഗങ്ങളിൽ നിന്ന് കിട്ടുന്ന വാക്കുകൾ സ്വീകരിക്കുകയും മലയാളത്തിലെ ജനങ്ങൾ അത് ഉപയോഗിക്കുകയും ചെയ്താൽ നമുക്ക് ഭാഷ ഒരു പ്രശ്നമേ അല്ല എന്നുള്ളതാണ് സത്യം. അപ്പോൾ മലയാളം മറ്റേത് ഭാഷയും പോലെ ഏത് വിഷയവും ഭംഗിയായി കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്യാൻ സമർത്ഥമാണ് എന്നുള്ളതിന് എനിക്ക് യാതൊരു സംശയവുമില്ല. രണ്ടാമത് എനിക്ക് പറയാനുള്ളൊരു സംഗതി എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, ഈ സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജി കൗൺസിൽ ഇതിന് വലിയൊരു ഇക്കോ സിസ്റ്റം ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും കേപ്പബിൾ ആണ് അവർ. ഇപ്പം അത് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. അത് കുറച്ചുകൂടെ വിപുലമായിട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കും. അതിന് വേണ്ട ആ ഇക്കോ സിസ്റ്റം ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റും പോപ്പുലറൈസേഷനുള്ള പരിമിതമായ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ മാത്രമേ ഒരു ഗവൺമെൻറ് ഓർഗൻ എന്നുള്ളതിൽ സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജിക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കൂ. മറ്റൊരു തരത്തിൽ ശാസ്ത്ര സാഹിത്യ പരിഷത്ത് പോലെയുള്ള വോളണ്ടിയർ സംഘങ്ങൾക്ക് സമൂഹത്തിലോട്ട് ഇറങ്ങിച്ചെന്ന് ഇതിനെ പ്രചരണാത്മകമായ പരിപാടികളും ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കും. ശാസ്ത്രകലാ ജാഥയൊക്കെ അങ്ങനെ നടത്തിയിട്ടുള്ള പരിപാടികളാണ്. സയൻസ് പുസ്തകങ്ങളുടെ സെറ്റുകൾ ഇറക്കി സയൻസ് പുസ്തകം പ്രസിദ്ധീകരിക്കാമെന്നും അത് വിറ്റഴിയുമെന്നും അത് ജനങ്ങൾ സ്വീകരിക്കുമെന്നും മലയാളത്തിൽ ശാസ്ത്ര സാഹിത്യ പരിഷത്ത് കാണിച്ചു കൊടുത്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് പിൽക്കാലത്ത് കേരളത്തിലെ വലിയ പബ്ലിഷേഴ്സ് എല്ലാം സയൻസ് പുസ്തകങ്ങൾ പബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്യാൻ തയ്യാറായത്. അപ്പൊ ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ ഈ സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജി കൗൺസിലും എൻവയറൺമെന്റ് കൗൺസിലും ഭാഷാ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ടും ശാസ്ത്ര സാഹിത്യ പരിഷത്ത് പോലുള്ള സംഘടനകളും ഒക്കെ കൂടെ യോജിച്ച് തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കും. പക്ഷേ ഇതൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ ചെയ്താലും ഒരു നാട്ടിൽ ഒരു രാജ്യത്ത് സയൻസ് പോപ്പുലറൈസ് ചെയ്യണമെങ്കിൽ, സയൻസ് അവരുടെ വികാരത്തിന് ഭാഗമാകണമെങ്കിൽ, സയൻസിനെ അടിസ്ഥാനപ്പെടുത്തി അവർ ചിന്തിച്ചു തുടങ്ങണമെങ്കിൽ അതിന് ആ സമൂഹം സന്നദ്ധമാകണം. ഇത് വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു കാര്യമാണെന്നാണ് എൻ്റെ അനുഭവത്തിൽ ഞാൻ മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത്. കാരണം RBG സാർ ഇതിനെപ്പറ്റി കൂടുതൽ പറയുന്നതാണ് എൻ്റെ വിശ്വാസം. ഈ സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജി കേരളത്തിൽ വികസിച്ചപ്പോൾ, ഇവിടെ നെറ്റ് ഫെസിലിറ്റി എല്ലാം ഗ്രാമത്തിൽ പോലും ഉണ്ടായപ്പോൾ, മൊബൈൽ ഫോൺ കൊച്ചുകുട്ടികളുടെ പോലും കളിപ്പാടമായി മാറിയപ്പോൾ സംഭവിച്ചത് എന്താണ്? അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ധാരാളം ചാനൽസ് ഉണ്ടായപ്പോൾ സംഭവിച്ചൊരു പ്രത്യേകതയുണ്ട്. കാരണം ഈ സയൻസ് ടൂൾസ് തന്നെ ഉപയോഗിച്ച്, ഈ ടെക്നോളജി തന്നെ ഉപയോഗിച്ച് അന്ധവിശ്വാസം വളരെ വൻതോതിൽ പ്രചരിപ്പിക്കാൻ ചില ആളുകൾക്ക് സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട് എന്നുള്ള സത്യം. ഞാൻ ഇപ്പോഴും ജോലി ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ ഓഫീസിലോട്ട് ഒരു ദിവസം പൊയ്ക്കൊണ്ടിരുന്നപ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ ഡ്രൈവർ പെട്ടെന്ന് വണ്ടി ഒരു പ്രത്യേക സ്ഥലത്ത്, ഗ്രാമപ്രദേശമാണ്, നിർത്തി. സാറേ 1 മിനിറ്റ് ഇപ്പം വരാമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. ഒരു ചെറുപ്പക്കാരനായ ഡ്രൈവറാണ്. മൊബൈൽ ഫോണും കൊണ്ട് ഓടി പുറത്തോട്ട് പോകുമ്പോൾ എന്തെങ്കിലും കുഴപ്പങ്ങളുണ്ടെന്ന് ഞാൻ വിചാരിച്ചു. ഏതായാലും 1 മിനിറ്റ് കഴിഞ്ഞ് അവൻ തിരിച്ചു വന്നു. അപ്പം ഞാൻ ചോദിച്ചു, നീ എവിടെ പോയത്? ആരുമായിട്ട് സംസാരിക്കാനാണ് പോയെന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു. അപ്പം ആദ്യം മിണ്ടിയില്ല. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞ്, സാറിന് വേണോ, ഞാൻ അറേഞ്ച് ചെയ്ത് തരാം. ഞാൻ എന്താ സംഭവനാ? അപ്പം ആണ് അവൻ പറയുന്നത്, നമ്മളുടെ ഓരോ ദിവസമുള്ള ഫലം, അസ്ട്രോളജിക്കലായിട്ടുള്ള ഫലം അതാ ദിവസം പറയുന്നത് നമുക്ക് മൊബൈലിൽ കിട്ടും. അപ്പം ഇവൻ്റെ ഇന്നത്തെ ഫലം എന്താണെന്ന് അറിയാനാണ് അവൻ ഈ വണ്ടി നിർത്തി പെട്ടെന്ന് പോയത്. അങ്ങനെ അവന് ഭാഗ്യമുള്ള ദിവസങ്ങളെല്ലാം അവൻ ഈ മൊബൈലിൽ നിന്ന് കണ്ടുപിടിച്ച് ആ ദിവസമെല്ലാം അവന് സാധിക്കുന്നതിൽ 10 ഇരട്ടി ലോട്ടറി മേടിച്ച് അവസാനം അവൻ നാട്ടിൽ നിന്ന് ഒളിച്ചോടേണ്ടി വന്നു. ഇത് ഒരു യഥാർത്ഥ സംഭവമാണ് ഈ പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പം ഈ സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജിയുടെ ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ് അന്ധവിശ്വാസത്തെ പ്രചരിപ്പിക്കാനും ഉപയോഗിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കും, മതപ്രചരണത്തിനും എല്ലാം ഉപയോഗിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കുമെന്ന് നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിൽ ഇപ്പം കണ്ടുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അപ്പം ഇവിടെ ഈ സൊസൈറ്റിയെ മാറ്റുക എന്നുള്ളൊരു വലിയ കടമ കൂടി ഈ ശാസ്ത്ര പ്രചാരകർക്ക് ഉണ്ട് എന്നാണ് എൻ്റെ ഒരു വിശ്വാസം. അവിടെയാണ് ഈ സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജിക്കും ശാസ്ത്ര സാഹിത്യ പരിഷത്തൊക്കെ പുതിയ പോർമുഖങ്ങൾ തുറക്കേണ്ടി വരുന്നു. ജനങ്ങളെ വിശ്വാസത്തിലെടുത്ത് വളരെ പേഷ്യൻ്റായിട്ട് അവരെ എഡ്യൂക്കേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള പരിപാടികൾ നമ്മൾ നടത്താതെ ഒരു നിവൃത്തിയില്ല. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇപ്പം എന്നെപ്പോലെയുള്ള ആളുകളെല്ലാം 10-50 വർഷമായിട്ട് ശാസ്ത്രം പ്രചരിപ്പിക്കുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ കുറേയേറെ പുസ്തകങ്ങൾ എഴുതിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ നാട്ടിൽ മുഴുവൻ ശാസ്ത്രമായി സമാധാനമായി ഇനി റിട്ടയർ ചെയ്താൽ മരിക്കാം എന്ന് വിചാരിച്ചിരിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളതല്ലാതെ നമ്മുടെ സമൂഹത്തിലോട്ട് ഇറങ്ങിയാൽ നമ്മൾക്ക് മനസ്സിലാകും 95% പേർക്കും, ഒരുപക്ഷെ 99% പേർക്കും, അല്ലെ 99.9% പേർക്കും വളരെ വലിയ വിശ്വാസങ്ങൾ, ആചാരങ്ങൾ, അന്ധവിശ്വാസങ്ങളും എല്ലാമായിട്ടാണ് അവർ ജീവിക്കുന്നത്. ഇതൊരു പക്ഷേ കേരളത്തിൽ മാത്രമുള്ള ഒരു സ്വഭാവമാണെന്ന് നമ്മൾ കൂട്ടണ്ട. ഇത് ലോകം മുഴുവൻ ഉള്ള ഒരു ഫിനോമിനായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ കൂട്ടണം. കാരണം ലോകത്തെല്ലാം നമ്മൾ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചാൽ 50, 60, 100 വർഷം മുമ്പുള്ള അതേ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ ഇപ്പോഴും കാണാം. അതേ യുദ്ധം, അതിനെ ടെക്നോളജി മാറിയതേ ഉള്ളൂ. അതേ തരത്തിലുള്ള യുദ്ധം, ആ യുദ്ധത്തിനുള്ള കാരണങ്ങളും എല്ലാം ഒട്ടും മാറിയിട്ടില്ല. മഹാഭാരത യുദ്ധം നടന്ന കാലത്തെ അവസ്ഥയിൽ നിന്ന് വലിയ വ്യത്യാസമൊന്നും വരുന്നില്ല. ആ ദുര്യോധനന്മാരൊക്കെ പാൻറ് ഇട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടെന്നുള്ള വ്യത്യാസം എവിടെയുള്ളൂ. അപ്പം ഇവിടെ വളരെ വലിയ ഒരു ചലഞ്ചാണ് സത്യത്തിൽ ഈ ശാസ്ത്ര പ്രചാരകര്, സയൻസ് റൈറ്റേഴ്സ്, ജയരാമനെ പോലെ ആൾക്ക് തലയിൽ വന്ന് പെട്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. കാരണം സയൻസ് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നവര് നല്ല മിടുക്കരായിട്ടുള്ള സോഫ്റ്റ്വെയർ എഞ്ചിനീയേഴ്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മറ്റു തരത്തിലുള്ള സയന്റിസ്റ്റുകൾ, അവരാണ് അന്ധവിശ്വാസം ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ പ്രേരിപ്പിച്ചുണ്ടാക്കുന്നതാണ് എൻ്റെ വിശ്വാസം. ഞങ്ങൾക്കൊരു പ്രൊഫസർ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അദ്ദേഹം ക്ലാസ്സിൽ വന്ന് പരിണാമ സിദ്ധാന്തം പഠിപ്പിച്ചതിന് ശേഷം ലാസ്റ്റ് ക്ലാസ്സിൽ പറഞ്ഞു, നിങ്ങൾ നന്നായിട്ട് ഇത് പഠിക്കണം, കാരണം ഇത് സിലബസിലുള്ളതാണ്, തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഇത് ചോദ്യം വരും, 10 മാർക്ക് തീർച്ചയാണ്, എല്ലാവരും നന്നായിട്ട് പഠിക്കണം. പിന്നെ ഒരു രഹസ്യം കൂടെ പറയാം, ഇത് എൻ്റെ മതവിശ്വാസത്തിനെതിരാണ്, ഞാനിത് വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നില്ല, ഇത് വെറും മണ്ടത്തരമാണ്. ഇത് പറഞ്ഞത് ഒരു സീനിയർ പ്രൊഫസർ, സർക്കാർ ശമ്പളം മേടിക്കുന്ന സീനിയർ പ്രൊഫസർ കോളേജിൽ നിന്ന് പറയുന്ന കാര്യമാണ് ഞാൻ ഈ പറഞ്ഞത്. അപ്പോൾ ചുരുക്കത്തിൽ സയൻസ് പ്രചരിപ്പിക്കാൻ നമ്മുടെ ഭാഷ സജ്ജമാണ്. നമ്മൾക്ക് സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജി കൗൺസിൽ പോലെയുള്ള മിഷണറീസ് ധാരാളമുണ്ട്. ശാസ്ത്ര സാഹിത്യ പരിഷത്ത് പോലെയുള്ള പ്രസ്ഥാനങ്ങളുണ്ട്. വലിയ ഇൻഫ്രാസ്ട്രക്ചർ ഉണ്ട്. ശാസ്ത്ര പ്രസിദ്ധീകരണങ്ങൾ പ്രസിദ്ധീകരിക്കാൻ തയ്യാറായ പബ്ലിഷേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ട്. ഈ പ്രസിദ്ധീകരണമൊക്കെ നന്നായിട്ട് വിൽക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അത് ആളുകൾ മേടിച്ച് വായിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. കാരണം അത് വായിക്കുന്ന അവരുടെ കരിയറിനൊക്കെ പ്രയോജനപ്പെടും. അങ്ങനെ അവർക്ക് നല്ല ജോലി കിട്ടും, അവർ നല്ല ശമ്പളം മേടിക്കും. പക്ഷേ നെഹ്റു പ്രതീക്ഷിച്ച ആ മാറ്റം, സയന്റിഫിക് ടെമ്പറമെന്റുള്ള ഒരു സമൂഹം, ശാസ്ത്രം വികാരത്തിന്റെ ഭാഗമായ ഒരു സമൂഹം, പ്രശ്നങ്ങളെ ശാസ്ത്രീയമായി കാണാൻ കഴിയുന്ന ഒരു സമൂഹം ഉണ്ടായില്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മളെ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ കൂടുതൽ സങ്കീർണമാകും. നമ്മൾ കൂടുതൽ വെല്ലുവിളികൾ നേരിടുന്ന ഒരു സമൂഹമായി മാറും എന്നുള്ളതിന് യാതൊരു സംശയവുമില്ല. ഇത് കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ മാത്രമല്ല, ലോകത്തിൻ്റെ മുഴുവൻ പ്രശ്നമാണ് എന്ന് കണ്ട് ഇതിനെപ്പറ്റി വളരെ ഗൗരവമായി നമ്മൾ ചിന്തിക്കണം എന്ന് അപേക്ഷിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ ഈ ചെറിയ പ്രസംഗം നിർത്തുന്നു. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experience in science communication and for stressing the role of languages in science popularization and need to popularize science and society. Thank you so much, sir. And we have Professor R.V.G. Menon, sir, with us. Professor R.V.G. Menon is a well-known people's science activist in Kerala, was the former president of Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. A doctorate holder in solar energy from Purdue University, USA. His core area of interest is renewable energy technologies. Professor Menon has taught at government engineering colleges in Kerala and was the principal of Government Engineering College, Kannur. Some of the senior positions he had held during his career include the Director of Agency for Non-Conventional Energy and Rural Technology, ANERT, at Thiruvananthapuram, and the Director of Integrated Rural Technology Center at Palakkad. He has been a member of Board of Studies and Academic Council, Senate Syndicate in various universities of Kerala, and a member of various expert committees of the government and state planning board. A renowned writer and science expert, he has numerous publications to his credit in the area of energy, science, technology, and society. I am indeed privileged to invite Professor R.V.G. Menon, sir, for the invited talk. Over to you, sir. Sir?
Hello.
Over to you, sir.
Good morning, friends. It's a strange fact that we happen to live in a country where it is our constitutional obligation to spread scientific temper. I'm not sure whether there is any other country where it is constitutionally specified as a duty. Probably it is the influence of the Nehruvian era, even though the constitutional amendment which specifies this was brought in after his time. But it was Nehru who termed scientific temper as a specific quality which is required to make India's progress possible. He mentions this in the discovery of India. It is also clear that developing scientific temper is not an obligation constricted to the scientific community. It is required for all of us who pursue various areas of living. We may be laymen, we may be professionals, we may be literateurs, but still a scientific temper is very much necessary, because what is the alternative? The alternative is an unscientific temper, or in other words, a temper which depends too much on traditions or depends on values which are not questionable or which are beyond questions. The hallmark of a scientific temper or the method of science is that everything is open to question. In fact, that is a basic requirement of scientific temper, to develop a healthy skepticism, the willingness or the eagerness to question things. How is it possible? Is it true? Are there any alternatives? So let me look at the different possibilities of what is right and what is not right. And to decide what is right, we should not depend on what somebody else has said. They may be great persons, well reputed in philosophy or religion or literature, very well respected in many aspects of life. But nevertheless, what they say about something need not be accepted without questioning. That is why when the Royal Society was formed in England, their logo was nullius in verba, which means on the words of no man. Nobody's presages, nobody's prescription is a guidance, is dependable. You have to depend on your own reasoning, your own observation, and your own experimental findings. This is not a British concept. As a matter of fact, our own Kalidasa has said long ago, Puranamityeva na sadhu sarvam, nachapi kavyam navana prasakti, sandha parikshyan nitara bhajande, mudhaha parapratyayane buddhihi. Puranam ityeva. Nothing is true merely because it is old, because it is traditional, because everybody says so. Just because something is new, it need not be false. The wise people, they decide things based on their own observations, their own judgment. Mudhaha, it is the stupid who go by other people's judgments. This is, in a way, of course, Kalidasa was referring to poetry, kavya. But this is true in science, and this is true in everyday life also. This is true even in politics. I say so because today one of the popular means of entertainment is watching the political discourses on the television. And when you watch these discussions, or so-called discussions, I should say, so many things are said merely because of prejudices or preconvictions. Nothing has to be proved, and nothing has to be based on proven facts. This is not acceptable in science, and this cannot be acceptable in real life also. We grow up with so many prejudices which are built into our mind by the exposure to our homely atmosphere. We hear so many things at home, and without our knowing or undeliberately, these previous inputs are built in as prejudices into our brains. And this pre-decides many of the judgments we make outside also. In fact, going to school is an escape from this environment. Probably for the first time, we are exposed to so many other inputs from many other people from different walks of life. Especially if you go into a public school, we find people from all walks of life coming there. People with different economic backgrounds, different social backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, They are all among your friends, and you hear from them, you work with them, you play with them, you even quarrel with them, then you make up with them, become friends again. And this is the way in which you get inputs from various sources, and you learn to evaluate all these inputs based on reason, based on your experience, your own experience and your own observations. This is one way in which you can develop a scientific temper also, because science also requires this, to be open to all kinds of inputs with an open mind, no doubt. But you check each input against what you already know from other sources, other experiences, and then you decide, is it believable? Does it agree with what I already know? If it does not, you have to be even more careful. Naturally, if you do an experiment in science, for example, you find an observation which does not agree with the Newton's law, let us say. If it does not agree with the Newton's law, you have to be very, very careful before sharing it with other people. You have to recheck, maybe conduct the experiment again, check the results once again. So after several rechecking, if you find that something is new, so even if it does not agree with you already know, or what is already accepted by other people, if it is proven by experience, you can share it with others and then receive their input. The method of science requires that something which is reported by one person has to be replicated by others under similar environments. So you have to be transparent. You have to explain how the experiment was done, how the observations were made, what were your precautions, and what is the expected error in your judgments. So with all these being transparent, others can replicate these experiments and check whether the results are reliable. If it is not replicated, if it is not verified by individual independent observers, then naturally your finding stands discredited. This is what happened when there was a revelation that cold fusion had been discovered. It was a revolutionary finding, something which did not agree with the widely held knowledge as it existed then. But it was published, and then it was open to other observers, other experimenters in the rest of the world to repeat the experiment and check whether the findings are reliable, whether the findings can be replicated. And when it was reported that these findings were not replicated, the theory of cold fusion fell by the wayside. This happens in science. Theories which were held in high esteem by many people for a long time have been disproved by new findings, new experimental results, which were replicated and found to be correct. So science does not apologize for it. In fact, it is not a matter of discredit. It's a matter of credit for science that something which has been questioned or which can be questioned has been questioned and was found to be wrong, and then it was corrected. These provisions for correction, this is a very welcome thing which exists in the scientific method, but which does not exist in many other methods of pursuit of truth, or many other methods which are claimed to be pursuits of truth. I said which are claimed to be because there are many avenues by which people pursue very deep questions about our universe, even fundamental questions like why are we here? What is the ultimate purpose of life? What is life itself? And for ages, these questions had been addressed by philosophers, people who did their thinking and developed ideas and concepts which they explained to the others and which they sought to prove by arguments and by reason in many cases. And when it was widely accepted, it became fundamental truths, or which came to be accepted as fundamental truths. And when these truths had been prevalent for a long time, they became unquestionable. So even physical findings, like Aristotle's theory of the universe, about the geocentric worldview, this was first inundated by Aristotle. And if you look at the history of science, you find that at that time, there were alternative views also who did not agree with Aristotle. But somehow, or obviously, this view in which the earth is the center of the universe and the human being is the most important creation became accepted by Christianity, and then it became part of religion. So when it became part of religion, it could not be questioned. So in due course, we find the alternative theories which had been put forward by other philosophers at the time of Aristotle and even during the Alexandrian period were discarded, and it was positively dangerous even to uphold, to hold such views. This fatal mistake was corrected only by Galileo. That is why we honor Galileo with being the father of modern science. Galileo decided to question some of the findings or some of the truths which Aristotle had put forward about falling bodies, for example, and these truths or these claims could easily be checked by experiment. So he did his own experiment and found that the heavy body and the light body fall at the same speed to the ground. And he discredited the Aristotelian finding. And once it was proved and once it was accepted that even what has been said by Aristotle can be questioned and can be disproven, so new theories can be accepted, this became a breakthrough. So we find the big thing about science is not that they give you ultimate truths, but the big thing is they give you truths which are provisionally true, subject to what we already know or what we can do. And another big thing about a scientific statement is that it can be questioned. It has to be questioned. Anybody can question it. And through the same methodology of science, you can check whether it is true or not. And if you find it is not true, it can be presented before peers, before other people who are exploring such matters. And they can check the results through their own experiments. And if these new findings are replicated, it becomes a new truth in science. This attitude requires an openness of mind, no doubt, openness to new ideas, openness even to different ideas, and then it also requires a humility that what you know or what you think that you know may be provisional, it may be subject to correction, it may be subject to questioning by other people, and you have to be humble enough to listen to the views and findings of other people. So this humility is very important, not only in science, but also in real life. Sadly, we find this humility is lacking, and this humility is being humiliated by whatever we see in the media now, by the way in which the media conducts discussions. They are not really discussions. There is no dialogue there. It is what is called tarka in Sanskrit, polemics. People proclaim things which they think are ultimate truths without any care about their being true or false, without being subject to questioning. So this attitude is not conducive to the development of a healthy society. And that is why Jawaharlal Nehru said that India has to develop a scientific temper if it has to benefit from its rich past in a positive way, in a scientific way, and go on to build a more positive, more prosperous, and more happy future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that informative talk and for providing us an overview of how to approach science and also in fostering the scientific temper. I think Sajeev sir has asked a question. Sir, is that a question, Sajeev sir? If you want, you can unmute and ask, or I'll read it out. There is a strong school in Kerala which argues that everything which has not been tested and cleared by modern science is pseudoscience. Ayurveda, homeopathy, and traditional medicines, etc., falls into their category of pseudoscience, while many believes that they work. So where does science stop and pseudoscience start? That is to RVG Menon, sir. Okay. I think sir is. Possible. We may take the question at the end and proceed to the next speaker. We have with us Dr. G.P. Padmakumar, who is the director of Kerala State Science and Technology Museum and Priyadarshini Planetarium, Thiruvananthapuram. He has done his graduation and post-graduation in civil engineering from College of Engineering, Trivandrum, and PhD from IIT Bombay in geotechnical engineering. He started his career as a civil engineer at IHRD and served as lecturer in Technical Education Department, Government of Kerala, and as Registrar of Kerala Technological University and as Managing Director of Center for Advanced Printing and Training, CAPT. It's my pleasure to invite Dr. G.P. Padmakumar for the invited talk on the role of science and technology museums in science popularization. Sir, please.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
At the outset, I express my sincere gratitude to the organizers for giving me an opportunity to present the role of science and technology museums in science popularization. So, respected Executive Vice President of KSST, Professor K.P. Sudhir, Dr. S. Pradeep Kumar, Member Secretary, Dr. A.P. Jayaraman, sir, Professor S. Shivadas, sir, Sri M.C. Dattan, sir, and my own teachers, Professor R.V.G. Menon, sir, and Professor Aravind C.P. Aravindasan, sir, respected dignitaries, friends, and participants. In this presentation, I'm giving an overview of objectives of science museums, evolution of science museums in India, exigency of science museums, learning experience in science museums, unique learning environments in science museums, learning through playing concepts, role of science museum in public education, and science museum components, and of course, KSSTM, its amenities, activities. The major objectives of science and technology museums are mainly in six categories. First of all, popularization of science and technology. Then inculcation of scientific temperament, imparting non-formal science education, supplementing science and technology education in formal educational institutions, attract younger generation towards creativity and innovation, and finally, disseminate science through application-oriented scientific entertainment. Coming to the evolution of science museums in India, as R.V.G. Menon sir has rightly pointed out, our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru has taken a decision to establish the science museums when India became Republic in 1956 itself, by following precious museums at Munich, Germany, which is now also considered as one of the world's largest science museum established in 1903. Around 50 galleries of various science and technology fields are there at present. And also, following the Science Museum in London, established in 1857. With these views, the first Union government has formed Union Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. And with this CSIR, they have instituted first Birla Industrial and Technological Museum, BITM, in Kolkata in 1959. And then in 1965, Visheshariya Industrial and Technological Museum, Bangalore. These two institutions are still very popular and disseminates this scientific temper in general public or in common man. Then in 1978, the National Council of Science Museum was formed under the Ministry of Education and Social Welfare. And the main aim was to create a place of learning science through amusement. So while establishing this NCSM, it was intended for developing science museums in 3 levels, such as national level museums, regional level museums, and district level museums. So now the national level museums are turned to science cities, metropolitan cities. Now, under this National Council of Science Museum, 28 science museums are there in all over the country. And more than 50 science museums are established under various state governments. Now, at the end of 1990s, this NCMS was shifted under the Department of Culture. Then what's the exigency of science museums? Much of science we read in books is hard to imagine, and it is difficult to encapsulate the innumerable scientific phenomena and processes to the students, and challenging for students to grasp the complexities associated with scientific phenomena. For example, the electrodes in an orbit, or structure of a DNA, or silicon chips, and what is a nuclear reactor, then what is solar system, and what is evolution, or how earthquakes are formed. So these are very difficult for the common man or students to understand from the books. Here comes the importance of science museums. Science museums helps in deconstructing complex ideas by explaining them through working models. Science exhibits at museums act as unique resources for formal and non-formal education, aids in developing skills and positive attitudes towards science. It provides wings to inculcate imagination, and it acts as places to discover, explore, and test ideas. For instance, a person wants to ride in a spacecraft. Nowadays, in science museums, with the help of simulators in augmented reality, virtual reality theaters, they can experience the same. If a sports student wants to know how heart works, with the life-size model of a heart gives an idea of the functioning of heart, blood flow, etc. Regarding the learning experience in science museums, the concept of education in museum changes from artifact-based mode to an activity-based process. That is, from the beginning to now, there is a shift from seeing and reading mode to doing and learning mode through the science museums. And at the end of 1970s, the science museums enacted science centers. In 1977, first science center, that is Nehru Science Center in Worli, was established. And with that, the museum concept changed to science centers. The exhibits in the science centers evolved to creative, interactive, self-explanatory form, theme-based artifacts. These museums introduced new concept of convey principles of science through enjoyable communication between the exhibit and the user. And this has changed the museum into models of exploratorium, where the visitors have the opportunity to handle exhibits, perform pre-arranged experiments, etc. Thus, the Science Museum is creating a unique learning environment by means of various exhibits like historical artifacts, natural phenomena, scientific ideas, technological inventions, etc. And it creates beautiful learning environment through for people of all ages. That is, they learn while enjoying. Scientific phenomena and concepts are exhibited through specifically designed devices, machines, and instruments. These exhibits prompt visitors interacting with them to ask questions and reinforce their own learning. These exhibits are designed to isolate a piece of nature or a concept from a complex world so that the visitor has a chance to look at, play with, and thereby begin to comprehend it. In fact, biological and life science exhibits assist people to create an environmental awareness also. The very basic principle of science museums are learning through playing. One of the important features of education is the role of playing and exploring the objects, ideas as part of learning process. This leads to the development of skills in observation, experimentation, testing of ideas, provides opportunity to discover independently. These museums helps to develop creativity, learning skills, idea of manipulation of objects, ability of sketching and drawing, and provokes thinking ability of the common people. It creates a playground of science which includes the development of fundamental curiosity for later learning. One of the main role of museum is in public education. That is, offer learning opportunities that are difficult to replicate in formal education institutions such as schools and colleges. This museum can host science-related activities and reach wider audiences. The gallery exhibits can be used by students and teachers as aids for formal learning or teaching. Associate libraries, laboratories, demonstration centers help people to develop deeper understanding of what they experience. These museums, as these councils usually observe, days like Science Day, Environment Day, Earth Day to create awareness among common people about various issues of current concern. What are the main components of a science museum or a science center? Mainly a science museum in all over the country consists of galleries with exhibits related to various scientific fields. Then this science park with outdoor exhibits. So especially the science park with outdoor exhibits are intended for school students where they get the opportunity for using multi-cycles, then seesaw, sliding, and they can understand the basic principle behind this by playing with these instruments. Then demonstration halls and laboratories to disseminate the current knowledge related with specific fields. Then another important one is mobile science exhibition units, what we called as Missio bus. So the science centers as well as these science museums are particularly in cities or in district headquarters, etc. But in order to reach out the village or rural areas, there are specifically designed buses on standard chassis having exhibit mounted on it. It reaches people who have no access to museums. Sometimes even the planetarium can also be included. Igloo planetarium can be included in this museum bus. Then of course the planetarium for sky observation facilities, etc. Then another important one is the science on sphere. The science on sphere is now very popular among the science museums and science centers, where the special projection system created by the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It presents a high resolution video on a suspended globe with the aim of better representing the global phenomena such as climate change, ocean temperature, etc. And it can be used as a very good medium for instruction of these global phenomena, geography, etc. Then of course, for enjoyment, we have 3D and 6D experience centers. And nowadays, the most important one is the innovation hubs. So these innovation hubs are now from 2000, I think from 2012 onwards. Nowadays, I think around 28 innovation hubs are created in these science centers with the partnership of central government and state governments. These innovation hubs are mainly act as a place which provides facilities to nurture new ideas and help to develop inclusive perspective in youth. The main parts of these innovation hubs are the Discovery Hall, Innovation Resource Center or a Hall of Fame, then an Idea Lab for promoting innovation activities, and a design studio. So coming to the Kerala State Science and Technology Museum, it was established in 1984 in accordance with the National Council of Science Museums patronage. It is an autonomous institution under the Department of Higher Education, Government of Kerala. The main amenities of KSSTM are it's a planetarium with a digital and optometrical projection system. That's a hybrid projection system where new generation system which combines the starry sky projected by optomechanical projectors, and it brings colorful images of domes such as nature of stars, astronomical images, etc. Then there are science galleries related with popular science, space, astronomy, electrical engineering, computer science, mathematics, and robotics. And this year, we are establishing 3 new galleries for automobile, then for the history of computer science, and for electronics. And we have a science on sphere, as I explained earlier, and a 6D motion simulator, 3D theater, and of course, innovation hub with activity corner with the labs facilities and classrooms, a good children's science park for learning through playing, an astronomical observatory for sky observation, a mobile science exhibition unit where the schools can take the facility, then a musical water fountain with laser show for entertainment during evening hours, and for a evolution park for the small children. So other activities of Science and Technology Museum are conducting popular science lectures regularly, summer science camps for students, science workshops, and seminars and workshops and conferences in association with the non-governmental agencies as well as governmental agencies. So a quick walkthrough regarding the digital optometrical planetarium and projection system. We have the planetarium, hybrid planetarium with 240 seats, and it is a very immersive experience. And we have the galleries. These are the view of the galleries and park. And of course, the science on sphere, then Thrillarium and 3D theater, and the activities of the innovation hub. So up to 2019, we are conducting regular shows and regular training for students and other youth who are interested in that. But from the beginning of this COVID-19 pandemic, this almost closed. From April 2020, we are planning to begin these activities again. Then we are conducting various workshops for science popularization and programs, that is creative summer workshops. Around 500 school students are given activity-based learning for 10 days, each during vacation. Public lectures by eminent researchers on topics of scientific relevance and recent technologies. Then short-term courses for students and youth on astronomy, emerging technologies, etc. So this is the views of certain summer science camps conducted earlier. Then our Thanu Padmanabhan sir, late Thanu Padmanabhan sir, has given several lectures in KSSTM. And also, we have 3 different regional centers coming up. One regional science center, Chalakudi, we have inaugurated in 2021 February. Now it is functioning. And one Kerala Science City project, that is the 4th type or 4th science city in India. So we have now Science City Kolkata, Science City Delhi, and Science City Jalandhar, and Kerala Science City, which is coming up in Kottayam, Koravilangan, is the 4th one. Then what regional science center is also coming in Parapanangan. So thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for explaining the initiatives and facilities of Kerala State Science and Technology Museum, and also for providing us an overview of the role of S&T museums in science popularization. Thank you so much, sir. And now let's hear from a few other experts who are involved in science popularization activities about their views and experiences. We have with us Dr. G. Nagendra Prabhu, the Associate Professor of Department of Zoology and the Principal Investigator of Center for Research on Aquatic Resources, SD College, Alappuzha, to share the experiences. Over to you, sir.
A very good afternoon to all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So it's my privilege and pleasure to be with the officials who has been actively involved in developing my career as far as research is concerned. I am from Sanatana Dharma College, and I started my research career in 1998 with a research grant of rupees 25,000 from the earlier version of KSCSTE, that is STEC. After 3 or 4 projects, I was typically continuing to be a researcher with a teacher who would publish, produce PhD, submit more projects, maybe end up with a patent and going on like that. That's a normal cycle that we all do. But in 2012, I happened to write an article on my research in a leading vernacular newspaper. And after that, I got a research project under the Rural Technology Program from KSCSTE. During the presentation of that RTP, the results, it was actually suggested by Dr. R.V.G. Menon and the honorable team that evaluated the project. They said, Prabhu, your work has a lot of social relevance. Don't just do research, publish, and enter the cycle. Please take the research result among the public. So that was the message given by Professor R.V.G. Menon and the team evaluated my research projects. So from 2006 onwards, I was associated actively with the science popularization program. I applied for a science popularization program and took my research as well as the problems associated with aquatic weeds to the common people in the districts of Alappi, Ernakulam, Kottayam, Koilun, and Trivandrum. And that changed my perspective towards science as well. As I mentioned earlier, I would have been a typical researcher or a teacher with publications, but interacting with common man, interacting with farmers, interacting with fishermen and school students, college students changed my perspective about research. And I started doing more rural technology work. and that has revolutionized my own research area. So it was a win-win situation. A teacher learning from the students or the public and vice versa. So that I would suggest that the importance of science communication, especially among the public. It was very well elaborated by the speakers before me. And this approach has enriched myself as a researcher and as a teacher. I have learned many things from the common man. Their no-nonsense approach, the need to develop rural technologies that can be sustained, and use of even technical jargon, avoiding the use of technical jargon in communication. So that has refined me as a researcher. I started more on that rural technologies, and several technologies were transferred to the public. Our college, we started a community training center where we have trained more than 500 common man, women entrepreneurs, jail inmates, students from special schools, and the general public. So that was a lab to land program through effective science communication, aided by Science, Technology, Environmental Council. There was a mention about the BIRD program, Biotechnology Innovations for Rural Development. And under the previous advisor, Dr. G.M. Nair, we got a BIRD program where we offered training to more than 300 women, private entrepreneurs on value addition of aquatic weeds, which is a perennial problem in Alapi. So I think such sort of programs is very much necessary, and I have 2 or 3 suggestions to the council that popularizing the research outcome should be mandatory for all funded programs of KSCSTE. At least, no, among the public. We of course have annual reports, assessments, technical reports, but make sure that there is a component, what is the benefit of the society from the outcomes of your research. Maybe basic research, all the basic research does not have direct applied components, but make it a compulsory aspect for all the funded programs of KCST, number 1. Number 2, there is a lot of misinformation coming from this the social media. So maybe somewhat I say, there are fact check mechanisms by the government, the police, but maybe a scientific fact check mechanism to be thought about in the new world. The younger generation are completely focusing on social media. So maybe the council can think in these lines and establish a scientific fact check cell or some mechanism for that. And the third one, maybe sensitizing the what do you call the reporters, the reporters, bloggers, as well as television journalists. So on the whole, I would suggest that the science popularization program is a very good component. I personally benefited from it. My research got very good exposure, and that resulted in a major scientific collaborative project worth 3 crores with the Indo-UK and ICRISAT collaboration. So I am very thankful to the society, to the council for inviting me to share my personal experience, and I hope that the suggestions I have given will be considered, and I would like to hear the others also speak. So thank you. I think I have finished my time allotted. Thanks to all the organizers once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing those experiences. I now invite Dr. M. Nawaz, the Technical Officer of Jawaharlal Nehru Tropical Botanic Garden and Research Institute, Palod, to share with us their science popularization programs and their experiences. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Respected member secretary, all other senior scientists, my colleagues, and all dignitaries present on this meeting. Today, I would like to, in collaboration with a higher secondary school in Kollam district. India now 4 years back we have applied a project to KSCSTE under the science popularization scheme. It was titled JODIS, a contact and awareness program to equip and empower higher secondary students towards research aptitude development. While we thinking to implement the project, it was at that time it was an idea shared with my colleague in that school, Chidara Government Higher Secondary School, who was a former student of JNDBJRI who completed his PhD from there. So we thought about this implementing some research aptitude development program to these school children, because this school is situated in a very rural area. So there is no much opportunity to expose students in scientific programs and other related things. So we thought about implementing such a program and selected some students on this aspect. We have with a clear-cut objectives, with some objectives. We have developed some objectives and implemented this program in the nearby this Chidara school along with the JND collaboration with the JNDBJRI. First of all, we have selected 60 students, first year +1 students for as the target group, and in the and developed the objectives were developing observation skill, scientific data collection and interpretation, and also to some skill development programs were also implemented, and awareness program on some natural resources like bamboos, gingers, and medicinal plants. And towards the end of the project, we have implemented some familiarization visit to various laboratories and institutions like JNDBJRI, district agri farm, etc. For giving observation skill and scientific data collection, we have formulated 4 small projects, and allotted to selected 20 students to this project, and there and give a continuous monitoring and awareness classes to these students, and they have picked up it very well. After completing these small projects, they have brought out with some good ideas and good data after the completion of these small projects. You have there is no much time to spend for this whole program, so we have given small projects in the, related to field work. So they are got well experience from all the faculties. There are faculties were given classes from TBGRI, different colleges and other institutions. So the program was well ended, and these students, nearly 60 students, were well trained on this scientific awareness program and aptitude development. After this was experience, this program was resulted in the formulation and finalization of that small 4 projects. That was the final result we got, and the data collection method is their analysis. We have given only some guidelines, and these students were used their own knowledge and experience they got from the NDBGRI and other scientific institutions to conclude these programs. And also we have given so many interactive programs with different scientists. We have organized the Meet the Scientist program for these students. Former our biodiversity chairman, Dr. Umman V. Umman, KS Secretary, Dr. Ajit Kumar, those level people were awareness classes to these students, and also some demonstration programs on medicinal plants, bamboos, and other things were given to these students. And familiarization visitors also arranged at the individual different laboratories. They got opportunity to visit different equipments, different experimental programs, etc. at JNDBJRI. And the field demonstration programs were also demonstrated at a district agricultural farm, banana farm. And even we have given training to bonsai techniques. one of the best, South India's one of the best bonsai garden at Nagarkoil, Takkala. On Dr. Mr. Ravindran, Advocate Ravindran is running this Nikki Bonsai Garden, and we have given training to these students at that. We have taken them to that garden and given training and exposure to bonsai techniques. So we have given several agricultural practices demonstration, and even one product development training was also given with using natural resources, some small primary healthcare products. So in that level, we have given all overall awareness to scientific research and the method of research, method of data collection, method of interpretation, data interpretation were given to these people, because these we have selected this program to the rural, one of the rural schools working in the Kollam district. That was the priority we have given, because these students will get some exposure in that area. So it was a wonderful experience, and we suggest that this program can be extended to all over the state, and for the students under the age group of high school and higher secondary students, for getting much awareness on scientific temperament, scientific research and all that. Because every student, every sports person or dancer or every extracurricular activities, they get trained 5 or 6 like that, and at the age of 20 or 15 or 20, they will be a good dancer or good sports person or athlete. But in the scientific research career, only they are thinking about the scientific research after 22 years, or after they are passing out their MSc or MPhil. They are thinking of such a career or such a research program. This thought initiated in our the materialized for implementing such a program. This is the wide idea we have selected this program, and based on that we have worked, and at least 60 students were given training on that. I think we can extend this program to all over the state for benefit of the student community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we have Dr. H. Sri Kumar, the District Coordinator of National Green Corps, Alappuzha District, to share the experiences. Over to you, sir.
Dear dignitaries and other participants, good afternoon, everybody. Today, my duty is to explain the NGC activities of the state. National Green Corps, it's an eco club program of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. And KSCSTE is the nodal agency for implementing the programs in the state. Its aim is to spread environmental awareness among school children and involve them in environmental related activities. In 2001, the program was initially launched in 50 to 100 schools in each district, and later it is increased to 250 schools per district. And this year, financial assistance of rupees 5,000 given for 300 schools per district. Now the program is implemented through NGC Eco Clubs of 4,540 schools, forming the largest environmental conservation network of Kerala. Each club having 30 to 50 children who show interest in environmental related activities, supervised by a teacher in charge. The program is implemented by the District Implementation and Monitoring Committee, DIMC, with the district collector as convener and as chairman, and district coordinator as convener. The DIMC will supervise and monitor periodically the implementation of the schemes in district with the support of nodal agency. KSCSTE also initiated Eco Club awards to best Eco Clubs in the state level and district level. The main objective of the program is to provide opportunities for younger generation to redirect their consciousness, and actions to create a more sustainable planet. In Kerala, utilizing the wide network of our eco clubs, we organized a lot of social and environmental development activities, and it helps in science communication and popularization in state. Major activities of eco clubs includes one, observing all environmentally significant days throughout the year. Various programs are conducting in schools. Give awareness on the current environmental issues to students and public through conducting seminars, workshops, competitions, rallies, preparing documentaries, nature film shows, etc. Field trips, lot of field trips are conducting to the nearest biosphere reserves and forests by the eco clubs. Make students close to nature and its resources. Formation of biodiversity register, conducting surveys on the water resources, plant and animal species, etc. were done by many schools. Eco clubs in schools give major priority to make the campus green, healthy, and carbon neutral. Medicinal, vegetable, and ornamental gardens are maintained in majority of the eco clubs. Paddy cultivation also promoted in some schools. Lot of cleanliness drive programs like developing aerobic compost pits, biogas, small biogas plants, etc. were done in many schools. With the support of KSCSTE, various central programs are also implemented in Kerala through national green laws. Some examples I'll explain. One is WASH program, that is water sanitation and hygiene program. Beach cleaning cum awareness program, organizing cleaning drives in the selected beaches of Kerala. GLOBE program, some sponsored by NASA, global learning and observations to benefit the environment programs. It's an international science and education program sponsored by NASA. Then national nature camping programs. District level, we are organizing field trips to wildlife sanctuaries, national parks, and other environmentally protected areas through these national nature camping programs. Capacity building programs. A lot of capacity building training programs we are organized for teacher in charges of eco clubs. Swachhata action plan, an awareness come action based program. Here we are, in addition to eco club students, NSS, NCC, local public scientists, research scholars, NGOs, etc. Lot of persons involving in these Swachhata action plans. In addition, district level programs of prestigious National Children's Science Congress is also conducting through our NGC platform. In addition, this year, as a part of Bharat Ka Amrit Mahotsav, NGC Eco Clubs conducted weekly activities, nature walks, competitions, debates, etc. as per the instruction of MOF and KSCSTE. It was an honor for NGC Kerala to be selected as the best NGC units of the nation. And we will continue to work for bringing up a scientific and socially committed community with the ability to lead and serve the country in the best possible way. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experiences. I now invite Dr. A.V. Rekhu, the Senior Scientist of Kerala Forest Research Institute, for sharing his experiences. Over to you, sir. Rekhu, sir. Hello, Rekhu, sir.
ഹലോ
ഹലോ സർ,
കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ?
കേൾക്കാം.
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 ഹലോ, ഓക്കെ. Dignitaries and my lovable teacher, good afternoon to all of you. I am Research Institute called as KFRA. Here I would like to share some important points regarding KFRA popularization activities as organizers as to present. Some of you may know the account of KFRA is nearing half a century. When KFRA was founded in 1975, it was in a small state in India, created an institution dedicated to the study of forests, forestry, and forest resource development. But the sector underwent a resource-oriented plantation forestry to conservation forestry, which means that the focus has shifted to the conservation of rich biological diversity housed by the KFR has been positively, actively, and carrying out building repositories of live and preserved tracing the biotic high altitude grassland, shola forest, mid forest, and the freshwater swamps forests called mystica swamps, and brackish water swamp forests called mangroves along the western seaboard. KFRA has built information systems, GIS-based solutions, and biotechnology aiding conservation on the one hand, while enhancing its germplasm collections, plant propagation facilities, and supply of seedlings for ecosystem restoration on the other. Research and development at KFRA for the cause of conservation has taken every turns that the discipline has undergone across the globe during the period. Extension and training wing of the KFRA continues to play a crucial role in dissemination of and crucial information required for conservation action for all sectors of the society, while enhancing the seal by imparting training in pertinent conservation action. The outreach and training activities, extension and training wing range from sustainable management resources to cultivation of medicinal, mitigation of human-wildlife conflicts to training of public in field of biology to build citizen science initiatives. The beneficiaries include school students, teachers, farmers, medicinal plant collectors, members of indigenous artisans, officers of Indian Forest Service, people's representative in local self-government organizations, government servants, Islam. At bringing out booklets and pamphlet informative videos in local languages on topics of immediate relevance on conservation, bioresource utilization, sustainable use of biodiversity, conservation, and resource management, which were received well. We are currently exploring the possibilities of establishing indigenous community marketing to create synergies, sustainable utilization of bioresources, human development and capacity building. For FRA to conduct, explore novel while conserving the resources by sustain. We are getting scientific and financial support from Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate, Science and Technology, Science, Technology and Environment, and other for organizing these activities. I wish to conclude here. Tried my best to explain of science popularization, and I thank to the organizers by giving these opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. To propose the formal vote of thanks, I invite Dr. Binuja Thomas, the Principal Scientist of KCSTE. Over to you, ma'am. Yes.
And distinguished participants. We have come
One team initiative. I'm not audible, ma'am. Just a minute. Mute time.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Most respected Executive Vice President KSCSTE, Professor Sudhir Sir, Dr. Pradeep Kumar, Member Secretary, our distinguished guests, invitees, directors and scientists of R&D institutions, colleagues and distinguished participants. We have come to the end of the special edition of 1 month, 1 theme initiative as part of the Vigyan Utsav on the theme Science Communication and Popularization. As we are slightly behind the schedule, let me move on to the duty entrusted to me. Let me profusely thank, on behalf of DST and KSSTE, Professor Sudhir KP, Executive Vice President, for the valuable support and guidance in organizing the program meticulously. Our sincere thanks to Dr. S. Pradeep Kumar, Member Secretary KSSTE, who is the General Coordinator of the program, for all his efforts in the smooth conduct of the program. On behalf of KSSTE and DST, let me place on the record our sincere gratitude to Dr. A.P. Jayaraman, President, STEAM Academy, who has joined us today and enlightened us with the keynote address. Thank you, sir. I sincerely thank, on behalf of KSSTE and Department of Science and Technology, Professor S. Shivadas, the speakers of the day, invited speakers, Professor R.B.G. Menon, Dr. G. Padmakumar, Director, Kerala State Science and Technology Museum, for highlighting the role of science communication in fostering scientific temper. It was, in fact, quite interesting to listen to the success stories from the beneficiaries from various domains, especially on the science popularization program of KSSTE. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Nagendra Prabhu, Dr. M. Nawaz, Dr. Sri Kumar, and Dr. A. Vidyaku for the excellent narration. Let me also thank Dr. E.S. Anil Kumar, scientist KSSTE, for coordinating the conduct of the program and also for detailing the science communication and popularization campaign in Kerala and also the KSSTE initiatives. Our sincere thanks are also due to Department of Science and Technology Government of India officials, Dr. Devapriya Datta and Dr. Rashmi Sharma for all the guidance and support. Thank you, ma'am. Our gratitude also due to the officials of different science and technology councils for joining the program, and special thanks to Madhya Pradesh State S&T Council for the necessary directions and guidance. On behalf of DST and KSST, let me also thank the directors and the scientists of R&D institutions for joining us, and my sincere thanks to all the scientists and administrative staff of KSST for being part of us. And a special thanks to my colleague, Dr. Sharika, and also the technical team of ISD division of KSST for managing the online platform effectively. Let me also thank all the distinguished participants. Hope we all had a wonderful time listening to the distinguished speakers. So thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. We now conclude the program. We'll meet you with the next theme next month. Happy to share that the coordinators of the next theme, the women scientists, will be Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment. And thank you. Now we have the national anthem.
Janagana mana adhinayaka jaya he Bharat bhagya vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkala Vanga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Uchchala Jaladhi Taranga तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत